Next, we have a guest speaker that is a veteran. Please welcome Jeremiah Miller.
Well, hello everybody. It's good to be back at Team Academy. All my kids went through Team Academy. It's been a few years since they've been here, so I really love being back. I'm a warrant officer in the Army National Guard. So a warrant officer is somebody that's supposed to know a lot of things about a lot of things. And so I create a lot of PowerPoints that show the things that I know. So it's not very much. Just kidding. Anyway. I just wanted to showcase this real quick. This is me. My title in the Army is Chief Warrant Officer 3, Jeremiah Miller. On the left side here is my basic training photo in June of 1995. As you can see, I was a much slender, better looking man. Then September of 2021, that's me in Indiana at some training. So I've grown up a little bit, but I just want to show you all that. So the next slide, I thought, it's kind of fun. Sometimes people say, hey, where does the Army say? Because you hear people say, you get to go all these places with the Army, or with the military in general. And so I kind of did a fun thing, and I'm going to pass this on to my kids and my grandkids, is I plotted on a map all the places I've been. So right here, if you see the little blue marks, that's where the Army has sent me in the United States. I spent a lot of time over in Alabama and South Carolina. So that's where I spend most of my training time. And then up in Minnesota here, that's where I do all my other training. So that's cool. Minnesota, or the United States, is really neat. The Army sent me a lot of places, but I've also been to Europe a couple times. I haven't spent much time in Europe, but I have been to Ireland, Germany, and Romania. So I did get to go and sit in an airport terminal and not go anywhere outside of the terminal, but hey, at least I stood on the ground in those countries. The next one is where the military has really sent me, and I spent a lot of time. So this is the Middle East. If you're good with geography, or if you've learned anything about it, right here is Iraq, and then right down here is Kuwait, and then over here is Afghanistan. So you'll hear a lot of times, and thank goodness we're out of these countries as far as a major conflict, but that's where a lot of our new generation of veterans have come from, is Iraq and Afghanistan. So all those blue marks there have been where I've been in the Middle East. So just something cool to show you. I hope it gives a visualization, but what I really wanted to do today is not talk so much about me, but about my friend that I have here. You may have noticed this awesome looking young man right here. His name is Willie Miller, and he's been in Afghanistan quite a bit. So I brought him with, I'll give you a backstory, especially for the parents that wonder why I have this creepy little dog, or grandparents. So when I went to Iraq, my kids were very, very little, and when I would call home, they weren't very interested in what I did, because they didn't know where I was at or what I was doing. So it was kind of hard to create conversations with them. So when I deployed the second time to Afghanistan, I thought, well, I had a friend who had a doll that he carried around for some reason, not sure, but anyways, gave me a great idea as to, hey, if I find this awesome guy named Willie on the internet and I bring him with, maybe it'll start conversations with my kids. And so lo and behold, when I brought Willie with me, I would say, hey kids, how are you doing? And they're like, oh great. Hey Dad, how's Willie? What has Willie been doing? What is Willie up to? So I brought him with, and my chain of command agreed that it would probably be an okay thing for me to have him. And I carried Willie with me everywhere. We'll see some pictures in a minute, but I carried him in a backpack with me, and eventually Willie became everybody's friend. So you'll see he's going to go on some adventure in Afghanistan. So I'll show you what happens. So here's Willie in a truck, but he joined the Army and National Guard in 2008. So Willie's up there in the top, and then that's down there as a full-fledged Army guy. All right. Shortly after he completed his training, he joined the 114th Trans Unit in Duluth and deployed with all of these fine soldiers. There's about 170 of us that deployed. Somewhere in this picture, and I was trying to find it, Willie is actually in this photo. I just don't remember where. So once Willie found out he was deploying, he had to get ready to go. So Willie started packing all of his personal belongings. You can see up here in this top photo, he has Army gear that he has to bring with. And then over here, he brought some Harley-Davidson bed sheets because he has to stay nice and cozy at and have some comforts from home. So Willie started packing all of his gear. Before he left, he got to go hang out with his brothers and sisters. And then 4 days before we deployed, his youngest brother, Coy, was born. So if anybody remembers, Bailey, Marilla, Preston, and then Coy. So he got to hang out with his family before he left. When he did leave his family, he got to go up to Camp Ripley, and he did a lot of training. So you see Willie learned how to read maps. He listened to some people give speeches. Over here is Willie in the backpack, so he hung out with me. And we actually got lost there, which isn't surprising for any sort of officer to get lost. But thank gosh I had a great NCO next to me to help guide me. Here's some more training. So he had to learn first aid. And I brought a medic with me here. He can tell me if Willie did good on his medical things. But he had to learn how to do bandages. He got shots so that he made sure he didn't get any sicknesses overseas. And then, I think the next slide. We learned how to use radios. So Willie learned how to use radios, and he had to learn how to use a protective mask in case of any sort of weird chemicals in the air. We never used them. We put them in that tote, and we forgot about them. And then he also learned how to shoot his weapons safely. We flew into Afghanistan on one of those big, huge Army planes, the C-130. And you'll see it was really hot in there. I don't know if you can see my face, but that's sweat rolling down my face. It was very, very hot. He wasn't so hot, but anyway, that was us in the C-130 flying into Afghanistan. And then in Afghanistan, he got his own desk, so he got to put his feet up and relax a little bit. He got some awesome microwave meals sent to us over there, so he enjoyed some Chef Boyardee. As good, as much better than Chow food over there. And then we got to hang out and watch movies. See, here I'm trying to pretend like I'm Willie, and I shaved my head bald, but I'm not a very good-looking bald guy, am I? Some guys can really pull it off. I really can't. And then he has his friend over there. That's Fraggle, his pet rock. So Fraggle Rock and Willie, they got to hang out quite often. He also got to go on one of the coolest missions. At the time, it was one of the longest coalitions. So a coalition is when there's troops from other countries that get to go on missions with you. So I didn't go on it, but Willie did. So Willie and British troops got to go on one of the longest coalition missions in Afghanistan at the time. So you can see him over here. He's hanging out in one of the trucks, an army truck, and he's hanging out with some of his friends. And then down here, these are actually British soldiers that friended Willie on Facebook, and they send him well wishes all the time. So he's got some friends from Britain. And then there's him in one of the big army trucks. And then this is some pictures of the desert in Afghanistan. So Afghanistan's a really cool country up in the northern part of Afghanistan. It's got mountains and trees and snow and everything, but where we were stationed was in the desert. So unfortunately, the Army always sends me to the desert. I'm not sure why, but now I'm really not looking forward to winter this year. The desert is where he's at. So that's the desert in Afghanistan. And he loved going with his friends. You can see he's on his radio, miking in, and then he never shot his weapon over there, but he did get to man the weapon on top of the truck there. And then we spent Christmas there, and then a few months later, so somebody sent him a tie blanket, and he got to keep warm, and we had a Christmas tree, and then back there's a snowman made out of toilet paper, but that's okay, right? Pretty funny. And then that's Willie looking as we're leaving Afghanistan out the plane window. So here he is with his entire group. This is a picture in Afghanistan, and he made a ton of friends. And if you see, there's even some little gnomes right here. There's a little gnome there, and there's a little gnome right about there. And then Willie is, where did he go? Does anybody see him in there? Ah, there he is. So yeah, Willie made that picture. We made it pretty clear. So Willie still is in contact with a lot of his friends here. If you go to the next slide. So Willie now, he's gone. He went to Kuwait as well. Kuwait was mainly on the base, and we didn't do many fun adventures there. But he did get to go to Kuwait, and he got to come back home with me. And then we started riding motorcycles. And he's going to be going on more adventures and talking about his service and helping other veterans. So here's Willie on his first motorcycle ride this last summer, and we get to hang out quite a bit. So I want to talk more about him and his adventures and how he's going to help veterans than I do about myself. So that's what I have for you, right? I think it's the last time. Awesome. Yep. All right, thank you.